I never thought I would be standing in a courtroom at 73 years old, fighting for my own dignity, while my mind betrayed me one memory at a time. My name is Margaret, and I need to tell you something that still makes my hands shake when I think about it. For 47 years, I believed my marriage was built on love, on promises whispered in the dark, on a lifetime of shared meals and quiet evenings on the porch. But when my diagnosis came, when the doctor sat across from me and said the word Alzheimer's, everything I thought I knew began to crumble. Not because of the disease itself, though God knows that was terrifying enough, but because of what my husband Richard decided to do with that diagnosis. He used it against me. He took the most vulnerable, frightening thing that ever happened to me and turned it into a weapon in our divorce case. He stood in front of a judge, in front of our children, in front of strangers, and he painted me as incompetent, as confused, as someone who could not be trusted to make her own decisions. He brought in doctors who had seen me on my worst days. He brought in neighbors who had witnessed me forget where I parked the car, or repeat the same story twice in one afternoon. He made me sound like a woman who had already disappeared, like a ghost haunting her own life. And for months, I sat in that courtroom feeling smaller and smaller, wondering if he was right, wondering if I really was losing everything, including myself. But then something happened that Richard never saw coming. My lawyer, a kind woman named Patricia, who never once talked down to me or treated me like a child, found something. She found a letter that Richard himself had written, signed with his own hand, dated just 2 months before he filed for divorce. And when that letter was read out loud in the courtroom, when every word he had written was spoken into the silence, I watched his face go pale. I watched him realize that his own words were about to destroy the lie he had built. That letter changed everything. It gave me back my voice when I thought I had lost it forever. And today, I want to tell you exactly what happened, how I survived a man who tried to use my illness to erase me, and how the truth, written in his own handwriting, became my salvation. Because if you are watching this, if you have ever felt small or dismissed or erased because of something you cannot control, I want you to know that your story is not over, not even close. It started on a Tuesday morning in March. I remember because it was the day after our anniversary, 47 years, and Richard had taken me to dinner at the same restaurant where he proposed. He held my hand across the table. He told me I looked beautiful. He ordered my favorite wine. And the next morning, while I was still smiling at the memory, still feeling like maybe we would be okay despite everything, a man knocked on our door and handed me papers, divorce papers. I stood there in my bathrobe, staring at words that did not make sense, feeling like the ground had opened up beneath me. Richard walked into the room, already dressed in his suit, already holding his briefcase, and he would not look at me. He said it was for the best. He said he had thought about it for a long time. He said he could not do this anymore, could not watch me disappear, could not take care of me, and then he left. He just walked out the door like it was any other day, like he had not just shattered 47 years into pieces on our kitchen floor. The months that followed were the darkest of my life. My daughter Emily flew in from California and found me sitting in the same chair where Richard had left me, still holding those papers, still trying to understand. My son Michael called every day, his voice tight with anger, promising me that we would fight this, that Dad could not just abandon me like this. But the truth was, I was scared, not just of the divorce, though that was terrifying enough, but of what it meant. If Richard, who had promised to love me in sickness and in health, could walk away the moment sickness actually came, what did that say about me? What did that say about my worth as a person? The Alzheimer's diagnosis had come 6 months earlier. I had known something was wrong for a while before that. I would lose my keys and find them in the refrigerator. I would forget appointments I had written down. I would start a sentence and lose the words halfway through, my mouth open, my mind blank, my heart pounding with shame. The doctor was gentle when he told me. He said it was early stage. He said we had time. He said there were treatments that could slow it down. But all I heard was that I was losing myself, piece by piece, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. Richard had seemed supportive at first. He came to my appointments. He held my hand when the doctor explained what to expect. He helped me set up reminders on my phone and put labels on drawers so I would not forget where things were. I thought we were in this together. I thought this was what marriage meant, facing the hard things side by side. But looking back now, I can see the signs I missed. The way he started pulling away, the way he stopped touching me unless someone was watching, the way he would sigh when I asked him the same question twice, the way he started going out more, staying late at work, taking weekend trips alone. I told myself it was stress. I told myself he just needed space. I told myself I was being paranoid, that the disease was making me see things that were not there. But I was not paranoid. I was right. He was already planning his exit. He was already building his case, and my diagnosis was the perfect excuse. The divorce proceedings started in May. Richard's lawyer was a sharp-faced man in an expensive suit who looked at me like I was a problem to solve rather than a person. In the very first meeting, he made it clear what their strategy would be. They were going to prove that I was mentally incompetent. They were going to argue that I could not be trusted to make decisions about finances, about property, about my own future. They wanted Richard to be appointed as my guardian, to have full control over everything we had built together, and then to divorce me while I had no say in any of it. It was cruel, it was calculated, and it almost worked. They brought in my neurologist, Dr. Sanders, and asked him questions designed to make me sound worse than I was. Yes, she has Alzheimer's. Yes, it will progress. Yes, there will come a time when she cannot care for herself. They did not ask about the good days. They did not ask about the moments of clarity. They did not ask about the fact that I could still read, still cook, still have conversations, still know exactly who I was and what was happening to me. They just wanted the judge to see a sick old woman who needed to be managed. They brought in our neighbor, Dorothy, who I had considered a friend. She testified that she had seen me wandering in my bathrobe at noon, looking confused. She said I had asked her the same question about her grandchildren 3 times in one conversation. She said she was worried about me, and maybe she was. Maybe her concern was real, but the way Richard's lawyer used her words, twisting them into proof that I was too far gone to function, that felt like a betrayal. They brought in our financial advisor, who said I had called him twice about the same statement, forgetting we had already discussed it. They brought in my former hairdresser, who said I had missed 2 appointments and seemed disoriented when I finally came in. Every small moment of confusion, every normal symptom of early Alzheimer's, was turned into evidence that I was not a whole person anymore. And I sat there day after day listening to people describe me like I was already gone. I wanted to scream. I wanted to stand up and tell them that I was still here, still Margaret, still a woman who had raised 2 children and run a bookstore for 20 years, and volunteered at the library and had thoughts and feelings and dreams. But my lawyer told me to stay quiet. She told me to let her handle it. She told me we would have our turn. So I stayed quiet, even though every word felt like a knife, even though I could see my children's faces in the gallery, red with fury and grief. Richard never looked at me during any of it. He sat at his table, his hands folded, his expression blank, like this was a business transaction rather than the destruction of a life we had built together. Then came the day Patricia, my lawyer, questioned Richard on the stand. She asked him about our marriage, about the early years, about the promises we had made. He answered carefully, his voice steady, saying all the right things. Yes, he had loved me. Yes, it had been a good marriage. Yes, this was difficult for him too. He played the part of the grieving husband perfectly, the man who had no choice but to walk away from a wife whose mind was slipping. But Patricia did not let him off easy. She asked him about timing. She asked him why he filed for divorce exactly 2 weeks after my diagnosis was confirmed. She asked him about the woman he had been seen with at a restaurant 3 towns over. His lawyer objected. The judge sustained it. But the question hung in the air, and I saw Richard's jaw tighten. She asked him if he had been planning this for a while. He said no. She asked him if he had consulted with a lawyer before my diagnosis. He hesitated. He said he might have, just to understand his options, just in case. Just in case. Those words echoed in my head. Just in case his wife got sick. Just in case he needed an escape route. Patricia asked him about money. She asked him about the offshore account we had discovered during the disclosure process, the one Richard had opened without telling me. She asked him about the property he had transferred out of both our names and into his alone, just 1 month after my diagnosis. She asked him why, if he was so concerned about my welfare, he had been systematically removing me from our shared assets. His lawyer objected again. They argued. The judge allowed the questions. And Richard stammered through answers that made less and less sense, saying it was for tax purposes, for estate planning, for protecting us both. But it did not sound like protection. It sounded like theft. It sounded like a man who saw an opportunity in his wife's illness and took it. But the real turning point came near the end of the 2nd week of trial. Patricia stood up and said she had one more piece of evidence to present. She held up a letter, 3 pages long, handwritten on Richard's personal stationery. She said it had been found in a box of his personal effects that he had left in the garage, a box my son Michael had gone through when helping me pack up some of Richard's things. Richard's lawyer immediately stood up, objecting, saying the letter was private correspondence, that it was taken without permission, that it should not be admissible. But Patricia explained that it had been left in the marital home, in a shared space, and that its contents were directly relevant to the question of Richard's motives and my competency. The judge asked what the letter contained. Patricia said it was a letter from Richard to his brother, dated 2 months before he filed for divorce, discussing his plans in detail. The judge allowed it. If you have ever felt invisible because of your age, because of an illness, because someone decided you did not matter anymore, I need you to do something for me right now. I need you to leave a comment below. Write this with me. Write, I am still here. I am still worthy. My story is not over, because that is what I had to tell myself every single day during that trial. And when I see your words, when I see that you are out there fighting your own battles, it reminds me that none of us are alone in this. It reminds me that our voices matter, even when people try to silence them. So please, take a moment right now and write those words in the comments. I am still here. I am still worthy. My story is not over. Let us fill this space with the truth that we are all still here, still fighting, still worth fighting for. And know that every comment you leave helps someone else who is watching feel a little less alone. We are a community here. We understand each other, and your words have power. Patricia began to read the letter out loud. Her voice was calm, measured, but every word landed like a stone in that silent courtroom. The letter started casually, asking about Richard's brother's health, mentioning a golf game they had planned, and then it shifted. Richard had written, I have been thinking a lot about my situation with Margaret. The diagnosis came through last month as we suspected. ALZHEIMER's, early stage, but progressive. The doctor says it will only get worse from here. I know what you are thinking, and yes, I have considered staying. I have considered doing the dutiful husband thing, seeing this through to the end. But Tom, I cannot do it. I cannot watch her fade away for the next 10 or 15 years. I cannot give up the rest of my life to become a caretaker. I am only 70, and I have plans. We have plans, don't we? The retirement we talked about, the travel, the freedom. None of that is possible if I stay tied to someone who will not even remember who I am in a few years. The courtroom was completely still. I could hear someone in the back row shifting in their seat. I could hear my own heartbeat. Patricia continued, I have spoken with Martin, the lawyer I mentioned, and he thinks I have a good case. The ALZHEIMER's actually works in my favor. We can argue incompetency, get me assigned as guardian, and then proceed with the divorce while I still have control over the assets. Margaret will not be in a position to fight it. Not really. Her mind is already going. By the time this goes to trial, she will be even worse. I know how this sounds. I know you will think I am being cold, but I have given her 47 years. I have done my part, and I deserve to live the rest of my life on my own terms, not as a nurse to someone who is disappearing anyway. She probably will not even understand what is happening by the end of it. In a way, it is kinder this way. Quick, clean, done before she deteriorates too much. I have already started moving assets around. The offshore account is set up, and I have transferred the property in Virginia into my name alone. By the time we go to court, I will have secured what I need to move forward. I will keep you posted. Wish me luck. I think I am going to need it. Richard. The silence after Patricia finished reading was deafening. I could not breathe. I could not move. I just stared at the back of Richard's head, at the man I had loved for nearly 5 decades, and I did not recognize him. Who writes something like that? Who plans the destruction of their spouse with such cold calculation? Who uses the words, she probably will not even understand, about the woman they promised to cherish forever? I felt my daughter's hand slip into mine. She was crying. I could feel her shaking. Michael stood up in the back, his face red, and the bailiff had to gesture for him to sit down. And Richard just sat there, his head slightly bowed, his hands clenched on the table in front of him. He did not deny it. He could not. It was his handwriting, his signature, his words. The judge asked Richard's lawyer if he wanted to respond. The lawyer asked for a recess. The judge granted it. We filed out of the courtroom, and in the hallway, Michael was shouting. He wanted to confront his father right there. He wanted to make him explain how he could do this. Emily was sobbing, asking me how I was, if I was okay, and I could not answer her because I did not know. Was I okay? Was any of this okay? Patricia put her hand on my shoulder and told me that letter was the key. She said Richard's own words had just destroyed his credibility. She said the judge would see right through the incompetency claim now. She said we were going to win, but I did not feel like I was winning. I felt like everything I had believed about my life had been a lie. When we went back into the courtroom, Richard's lawyer tried to do damage control. He argued that the letter was taken out of context, that it was a moment of fear and frustration, that Richard had been overwhelmed and had written things he did not mean. He said that everyone has private thoughts they are not proud of, thoughts they would never act on, and that this was simply Richard processing his emotions in a letter to his brother. But Patricia was ready. She pointed out that Richard had, in fact, done exactly what he described in that letter. He had moved assets. He had filed for incompetency. He had structured the divorce precisely the way he said he would. This was not a moment of frustration. This was a blueprint, and he had followed it step by step. She asked Richard, point blank, if he had written the letter. He said yes. She asked if he had meant what he wrote. He hesitated, and then he said he had been scared, that he had not known how to handle the diagnosis, that he was sorry. Sorry. The word felt empty, meaningless. The judge took a break to review the evidence. We waited in a small conference room, the four of us, me and my children and Patricia. Nobody knew what to say. Emily kept hugging me, kept telling me she loved me, kept saying she could not believe Dad had done this. Michael paced back and forth, his hands in his fists, muttering about how he would never forgive him, and I sat there feeling numb, feeling like I was watching all of this happen to someone else. I thought about all the years. I thought about the morning Richard proposed, down on one knee in that restaurant, his hands shaking as he held out the ring. I thought about our wedding day, the way he cried when he saw me walking down the aisle. I thought about the night Emily was born, how he held her like she was made of glass and whispered that he would protect her forever. I thought about the summer we drove cross-country, just the two of us, singing terrible songs and getting lost and laughing until our stomachs hurt. I thought about the 1,000 ordinary days, the meals we cooked, the shows we watched, the quiet nights when we did not even need to talk because we were just comfortable being together. Had any of it been real? Or had I been married to a man who was only there as long as it was easy, as long as I was useful, as long as I was whole? The judge called us back in and delivered her ruling from the bench. She said that based on the evidence presented, particularly the letter, it was clear that Richard's claims about my incompetency were not made out of concern for my welfare, but rather as a strategy to gain advantage in the divorce proceedings. She said that while I did have a diagnosis of early-stage Alzheimer's, the medical testimony showed that I was still fully capable of understanding my situation and making decisions about my own life. She said that Richard's actions, moving assets, and filing for guardianship while simultaneously planning a divorce, demonstrated bad faith. She denied the incompetency petition. She ordered a full accounting of all marital assets, including the offshore account and the transferred property. She said we would proceed with the divorce as a standard dissolution, with both parties having equal say. And she said, looking directly at Richard, that she was deeply troubled by what she had seen and heard, and that she would be taking the issue of asset concealment very seriously. It was a victory. Patricia hugged me. My children hugged me. People from the gallery, strangers who had been watching the trial, came up to me in the hallway and told me they were proud of me, that they were rooting for me. But I did not feel victorious. I felt hollowed out. I felt like I had won the right to keep my dignity, to keep my voice, but I had lost something much bigger. I had lost the story I had told myself about my marriage. I had lost the belief that I had been loved, and no judge's ruling could give that back. The divorce took another 4 months to finalize. Richard's lawyer tried to negotiate, tried to argue for a better split, but the judge was not having it. The asset concealment, the manipulation, the letter, all of it had turned the judge firmly against him. In the end, I got the house, half of his pension, half of everything we had built together. Richard got his freedom. And that woman he had been seen with, she moved into his new apartment 2 weeks after the divorce was final. I heard it from Dorothy, who came by with an apology and a casserole, saying she had not understood what was really happening, that she would have never testified if she had known. I told her it was okay, even though it was not, because I was tired of being angry. I was tired of hurting. My children wanted me to move in with one of them. Emily had a guest house in California. Michael had a big place in Colorado. But I stayed in my home, the home where I raised them, the home where I thought I had lived a whole life. I got a caregiver who comes 3 times a week, a lovely woman named Rose who does not treat me like I am broken. I take my medication, I do my puzzles, I go to my support group every Tuesday, where I sit with other people who understand what it is like to feel your mind slipping and to be terrified, and to keep going anyway, and I am okay. Some days are harder than others. Some days I forget things, important things, and I feel that spike of fear. But I am still here. I am still Margaret, and I am still fighting. There is something I need to tell you, something I did not even tell my children for a long time. After the divorce was finalized, after everything was signed and Richard was gone, I found another letter. This one was in a box of old photographs I was sorting through, pictures from when the kids were young, birthday parties and vacations and school plays, and tucked in between 2 albums was an envelope with my name on it in Richard's handwriting. It was postmarked from 40 years ago, sent from his business trip to Chicago, but I had never seen it before. I had no memory of ever receiving it, no memory of reading it. Maybe I had and forgot. Maybe it had gotten lost and only now resurfaced. I do not know, but I opened it, and inside was a letter, written in that same handwriting I had seen on the courtroom document, but younger, less certain. It said, "My dearest Margaret, I am sitting in a hotel room 1,000 miles away from you, and all I can think about is how much I miss you. I know I do not say it enough, but you are everything to me. You are the reason I work so hard, the reason I want to build a good life. I want to give you the world. I want to grow old with you. I want to be the man you deserve. Sometimes I worry I am not good enough for you. Sometimes I worry that I am too selfish, too focused on my own goals, that I do not tell you enough how much you mean to me. But I love you, Margaret. I love you more than I know how to say, and I promise you, no matter what happens, no matter how hard things get, I will always be here for you. I will always choose you. Forever, Richard." I read that letter 3 times, sitting alone in my kitchen, crying so hard I could barely see the words. Because that man, the man who wrote that letter 40 years ago, where did he go? When did he disappear? When did the man who loved me more than he knew how to say become the man who wrote to his brother about how I was not worth the inconvenience? Was it gradual? Did he wake up one day and realize he did not love me anymore? Or had he always been capable of this cruelty, and I just never saw it? I wanted to hate him. I wanted to burn that old letter and erase every good memory and tell myself he had never loved me at all. But the truth is more complicated than that. The truth is that both letters were real. He was both men. He was the man who promised forever, and the man who walked away the moment forever got difficult, and I have to live with that. But here is what I learned through all of this. I learned that I am stronger than I thought. I learned that even when people try to erase you, even when they use your vulnerabilities as weapons, you can still stand up. You can still fight. You can still reclaim your voice. I learned that Alzheimer's is a terrifying diagnosis, but it does not mean I stop being a person. It does not mean my thoughts and feelings do not matter. It does not mean I am already gone. I am still here. Every day that I wake up and remember my name, remember my children, remember the feeling of sun on my face and the taste of coffee and the sound of birds outside my window, I am still here. And even on the days when the fog rolls in, when I lose words or forget what I was doing or have to ask the same question twice, I am still here. My worth is not measured by the sharpness of my memory. My value is not determined by whether I am convenient or easy to love. I also learned about the power of truth. That letter, the one Richard wrote to his brother, the one he never thought would see the light of day, that was the truth, and it saved me. Not because it was kind or because it made me feel better, but because it was real. It exposed what was really happening. It showed the judge, showed my children, showed me that I was not imagining things, that I was not being paranoid or difficult or unreasonable. I was being manipulated. And once we could all see that clearly, once the truth was out in the open, I had a fighting chance. So if you are in a situation where you feel gaslit, where you feel like you are losing your mind, where someone is telling you that your reality is not real, find the truth. Find the receipts, the messages, the documents, whatever it is that proves what you know in your gut to be true, because the truth has power, and it can set you free, even when freedom comes with heartbreak. I want to talk to those of you who are caregivers, who are watching someone you love go through Alzheimer's or dementia or any illness that changes who they are. I know it is hard. I know it is exhausting. I know there are days when you feel like you are losing them and losing yourself at the same time. But please, please remember that the person is still in there. They are still worthy of love, of respect, of dignity. They are still human. Do not do what Richard did. Do not see the diagnosis and start planning your escape. Do not look at your loved one and see only the burden, only the inconvenience. See the whole person. See the lifetime they lived before this disease. See the moments of clarity, the flashes of who they still are. And if you absolutely cannot do it, if it truly is too much for you, then be honest. Ask for help, find resources, but do not betray them. Do not use their illness against them. Because I can tell you from experience, that betrayal cuts deeper than the disease ever could. And to those of you who are facing a diagnosis like mine, who are terrified of what is coming, who feel like you are disappearing already, I want to tell you something important. You are not your diagnosis. You are not defined by what you forget or what you struggle with. You are a whole person with a lifetime of experiences and relationships and love. You are still you. Yes, things will change. Yes, some days will be hard. Yes, you will need help. But that does not mean your life is over. It does not mean you stop mattering. Advocate for yourself. Speak up. Do not let anyone, not a spouse, not a family member, not a lawyer, not a doctor, tell you that you are incompetent when you know you are not. Trust yourself and surround yourself with people who see you, really see you, not just the diagnosis, but the person underneath. Those are the people who will fight for you when you need it most. I think about the woman I was when this all started, sitting in that chair with the divorce papers, feeling like the world had ended. I think about how small I felt, how helpless, how certain that I would not survive this. And I look at the woman I am now, still living in my home, still fighting for every good day, still here, and I am proud of her. I am proud of me. I survived something I did not think I could survive. I stood up in that courtroom and I let the truth speak for me. I did not let Richard erase me. I did not let the Alzheimer's define me. I am still Margaret. I am still here. There is a part of me that still grieves for the marriage I thought I had. There are nights when I lie in bed and remember the good times, the real love I thought we shared, and I miss it. I miss the man I thought Richard was. I miss the partnership I believed in, but I do not miss the man he actually turned out to be. I do not miss being with someone who saw my illness as an opportunity. I do not miss being lied to. And slowly, painfully, I am building a new life, one where I am surrounded by people who love me for real, not conditionally, not just when it is easy. My children call me every day. My grandchildren visit and we bake cookies, and they do not care when I forget what I am saying mid-sentence because they just love being with Grandma. Rose and I have become real friends. The people in my support group understand me in a way no one else can. I am not alone, and that is everything. If you have made it this far in my story, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for letting me share this with you, because telling it, putting it into words, it helps. It reminds me that what happened to me matters, that I matter, and I hope that somewhere in this story, you found something that helps you too. Maybe you are facing your own betrayal. Maybe you are dealing with your own diagnosis. Maybe you are just trying to make sense of a world that feels cruel and unfair. Whatever it is, I want you to know that you are not alone. We are all here, fighting our own battles, and sometimes just knowing that someone else understands makes all the difference. Now I want to ask you something. If this story touched you, if it made you feel something, if it reminded you that you are not alone, would you consider subscribing to this channel? This is a place where we share real stories about real struggles. This is a place where no one is judged, where everyone is seen, where we lift each other up. Every week, I share more about my journey, about the challenges and the victories, about what it is really like to live with Alzheimer's and to keep fighting for joy and dignity and connection. And in the comments, I see so many of you sharing your own stories, supporting each other, building a community of people who truly understand. When you subscribe, you become part of that community. You become part of something bigger than just one person's story. You become part of a movement of people who refuse to be erased, who refuse to give up, who show up for each other every single day. So please, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you never miss a new story, and know that by being here, by watching, by caring, you are making a difference. You are reminding me and everyone else here that we are still worthy, still valuable, still here. Leave me a comment and tell me what you are fighting for today. Tell me what keeps you going. Tell me your story, even if it is just one sentence, because every comment, every word you share, it builds this space into something powerful. It turns isolated pain into shared strength. And I read every single comment. I see you, I hear you, and I am so grateful you are here. If you found value in my story, please share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Share it with someone who is feeling invisible, who is struggling, who needs to be reminded that they are not alone. Together, we can reach more people. Together, we can build a community where everyone knows they matter. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. I will see you in the next video, and until then, remember this. You are still here. You are still worthy. Your story is not over. None of our stories are over. We are all still writing them, one day at a time, one moment at a time, and that is a beautiful, powerful thing. You know what nobody tells you about Alzheimer's? They tell you about the memory loss, about the confusion, about forgetting names and faces, but they do not tell you about the grief of losing yourself while you are still alive, the grief of watching people look at you differently, like you are already a ghost, the grief of knowing that one day, maybe soon, maybe years from now, you will not remember this moment, this fight, this victory. That grief sits with me every single day. It is there when I wake up and have to check my pill organizer to make sure I took yesterday's medication because I cannot quite remember. It is there when I am talking to Emily and I lose her husband's name mid-sentence and have to say your husband instead because the word will not come. It is there when I look at old photographs and some of the faces are familiar, but I cannot place them, cannot remember the story behind the picture. And it is there when I have moments of absolute clarity, when my mind feels sharp and present, because I know those moments are precious and finite. But here is what I have learned about that grief. You can carry it and still live. You can acknowledge the loss and still find joy. You can be afraid of what is coming and still show up for today, because that is all any of us really have, is today. Alzheimer's just makes that truth more obvious, more urgent. I cannot waste time anymore on things that do not matter. I cannot waste energy on people who do not truly see me. I cannot waste a single good day worrying about the bad days that might come. So I make choices. I choose to spend time with my grandchildren, letting them teach me how to use apps on my phone, even though I will probably forget by next week. I choose to sit in my garden every morning with my coffee, feeling the sun, listening to the birds, being present in my body and my life. I choose to go to my support group and share honestly about the hard stuff, because pretending everything is fine helps no one. I choose to let Rose help me without feeling ashamed that I need help. I choose to live, really live, for as long as I can. After the divorce, I thought I would feel free, but instead I felt untethered. For 47 years, my identity had been wrapped up in being Richard's wife. I was Margaret and Richard. We were a unit. And suddenly, I was just Margaret, alone, at 73, with a disease that was slowly taking pieces of me away. Who was I supposed to be now? I did not know. So I started small. I started trying to remember who I was before Richard, before marriage, before children. I was a girl who loved books. I was a young woman who dreamed of traveling the world. I was someone who wanted to write, who filled notebooks with stories and poems that no one ever read. Somewhere along the way, I had put those dreams aside. I had become a wife, a mother, a caregiver to everyone else's needs, and those roles were beautiful. I do not regret them, but I had lost myself in them. So now, in this strange, unexpected chapter of my life, I decided to try to find her again. I started writing again. Just little things at first, memories I wanted to capture before they slipped away. I wrote about my childhood, about growing up in a small town where everyone knew everyone, about my mother's garden and my father's laugh and the smell of bread baking on Sunday mornings. I wrote about meeting Richard, about the early days when everything felt possible, when we were young and stupid and so in love we could not see straight. I wrote about my children, about the exhaustion and terror and overwhelming love of being a mother, about every first step and first word and first day of school. I wrote about the bookstore I ran for 20 years, about my favorite customers, about the way it felt to match the perfect book to the right person. And I wrote about the divorce, about the betrayal, about standing in that courtroom and finding my voice. My handwriting is not as steady as it used to be. Sometimes I have to stop mid-sentence because the word I need has vanished, but I write anyway because these stories are mine, and I want them to exist somewhere outside of my failing memory. My son Michael came to visit last month, and he found one of my notebooks on the kitchen table. He read a few pages, and when he looked up at me, his eyes were wet. He said, "Mom, this is beautiful. You should share this. People need to hear this." And that is when I decided to start this channel, to start telling my story out loud, to let people see what this journey really looks like. Because there are millions of people out there dealing with Alzheimer's, either personally or watching someone they love go through it. And so much of the conversation around this disease is clinical, medical, detached. But the lived experience, the day-to-day reality of it, that is messy and emotional and complicated. That is what I want to share, not to scare people, but to make them feel less alone, to show them that you can have this diagnosis and still have a life worth living, to prove that you do not disappear the moment the doctor says the word Alzheimer's. There are good days and bad days. Let me be honest about that. Last week I had a really bad day. I woke up and did not recognize my bedroom. I knew I was in a house. I knew it was daytime, but I could not remember where I was or how I got there. That blank terror, that feeling of being completely lost in your own life, it is indescribable. I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to breathe, trying to orient myself, and slowly, piece by piece, it came back. My name, my house, my children, the divorce, the trial, all of it filtered back in, and I was me again. But for those few minutes, I was no one, nowhere, and it was the most frightening thing I have ever experienced. I called Emily afterward, and I cried, and she cried, and she asked if I wanted to come stay with her, and I thought about it. I really did, but then I thought about giving up my home, my independence, my life, and I could not do it. Not yet. Not while I still have good days. Not while I can still write and think and be myself most of the time. The good days outnumber the bad ones, at least for now. On good days, I feel almost normal. I have breakfast with Rose and we talk about her children and her life, and I remember everything she tells me. I work in my garden, pulling weeds and planting flowers, feeling the soil in my hands, and the satisfaction of making something grow. I video chat with my grandchildren and they show me their school projects and tell me about their friends, and I follow every word. I read books, real books with complex plots, and I remember what happened from one chapter to the next. I cook meals that actually turn out well. I do the crossword puzzle in the newspaper. I exist fully in my own life, and on those days, it is easy to forget that anything is wrong. On those days, I let myself hope that maybe the progression will be slow, that maybe I will have years of these good days, that maybe the worst-case scenarios will not come true for a long time. But I am not naive. I know what is likely coming. I have done the research. I have talked to my doctors. I have been to support groups where I have met people further along in this journey, people who can no longer speak in full sentences, people who do not recognize their own children, people who need round-the-clock care. I have seen the future, and it is terrifying. But I have also seen something else. I have seen caregivers who still hold their loved one's hand with tenderness. I have seen moments of connection that transcend memory, flashes of joy or peace or love that exist even when the person's mind is mostly gone. I have seen that even in the late stages, there is still a person there, still someone worthy of dignity and care. And I have made my children promise me that no matter how bad it gets, they will remember that I am still in here somewhere. They will not give up on me the way Richard did. They will not see me as a burden or an inconvenience. They will remember all the years I was fully myself, and they will honor that person even when she is hard to find. I have also made legal preparations. I have advanced directives. I have named Emily as my healthcare power of attorney and Michael as my financial power of attorney. I have specified what kind of care I want and do not want. I have planned for the possibility that I will need memory care at some point. I have done everything I can to make sure that when the time comes when I truly cannot make decisions for myself anymore, the people making those decisions will be people who love me, people who will prioritize my comfort and dignity over convenience or cost. This is what Richard should have done. He should have talked to me. should have planned with me, should have been my partner in preparing for this disease. Instead, he planned around me, planned to get rid of me, but I will not let his betrayal define my future. I am taking control of what I can control, while I still can. Something unexpected has come from all of this pain. I have become closer to my children than I ever was before. Not that we were not close, but there was always a distance, the normal distance of adult children living their own lives. They called on holidays and birthdays. They visited a few times a year. We loved each other, but we were not deeply involved in each other's daily lives. Now, everything has changed. Emily calls me every single morning. She says it is to check on me, but I think it is also for her, to hear my voice, to know I am still here. Michael comes to visit once a month, and we spend whole weekends together, just talking, just being present with each other. They have rallied around me in a way that takes my breath away. They have shown me what real love looks like, the kind that does not run when things get hard, and I am so grateful for them. They are my proof that I did something right, that I raised good humans who know how to show up. My grandchildren have surprised me too. They are young, between 7 and 14, and I worried that my diagnosis would scare them, that they would not know how to be around me anymore. But kids are more resilient and accepting than we give them credit for. My oldest granddaughter, Sophie, asked me directly what Alzheimer's means, and I explained it to her in simple terms. I said my brain is not working as well as it used to, and sometimes I might forget things or get confused, but I am still Grandma, and I still love her just as much. She thought about it for a moment and then said, "Okay, so if you forget my name, I will just remind you. That is easy." And that was it. No fear, no pity, just acceptance and problem solving. The younger ones do not really understand what is happening, but they know Grandma needs extra patience sometimes, and they roll with it. They make me laugh. They keep me connected to the present, to the future. They give me reasons to fight for every good day I can get. I want to tell you something that might sound strange. In some ways, going through this divorce, facing Richard's betrayal, fighting for my dignity in that courtroom, it has made me stronger, not in spite of the Alzheimer's, but almost because of it, because I could have let him do it. I could have believed what he was saying about me, that I was incompetent, that I was already too far gone to fight. I could have just given up and let him take control and erase me, but something in me refused. Something deep and fundamental said, "No, I am still here, I still matter, and I will not go quietly." That strength, I did not know I had it. I thought of myself as someone who went along, who kept the peace, who did not make waves. But when it mattered most, when my very existence was being threatened, I found a backbone made of steel. And now I know it is there. I know I can survive hard things. I know I can fight. And that knowledge carries me through the bad days. There is also something powerful about having nothing left to lose. Richard was my biggest fear. He was the person whose opinion mattered most, whose love I thought I needed to be complete, and he left. He betrayed me in the worst possible way, and I survived it. So what else is there to be afraid of? The Alzheimer's is scary, yes, but I have already faced my worst nightmare and come out the other side. That gives me a strange kind of freedom. I do not have to perform anymore. I do not have to pretend to be anything I am not. I do not have to hide my struggles or my fears or my bad days. I can just be honest, just be myself, just be Margaret with all her flaws and failings and fading memory. And that is enough. I am enough, just as I am. I think about the letter sometimes, the one Richard wrote to his brother, the one that saved me. I think about the cosmic justice of it, that his own words became his undoing. If he had never written that letter, if he had kept his plans in his head instead of putting them on paper, he might have gotten away with it. He might have convinced the judge that I was incompetent. He might have taken everything and left me with nothing. But he was arrogant. He thought he was safe. He thought no one would ever see those words. And that arrogance destroyed him. There is a lesson in that. The truth has a way of coming out. Lies might work for a while, but eventually, they collapse under their own weight. So if you are dealing with someone who is lying, who is manipulating, who is trying to rewrite reality, hold on. Keep looking for the truth. It is out there somewhere, and when you find it, it will set you free. I also think about Richard sometimes, about where he is now, what his life looks like. I heard from a mutual friend that he and his girlfriend broke up after about 6 months. Apparently, she was not interested in taking care of an elderly man either when he had a health scare of his own. I do not take pleasure in that. I do not wish him pain. But there is a certain poetic justice to it, is there not? He left me because he did not want to be a caregiver, did not want to sacrifice his golden years, and now he is alone anyway. I wonder if he thinks about me. I wonder if he feels guilt or regret. I wonder if he looks back on 47 years of marriage and sees the waste of it, the destruction of something that could have been beautiful all the way to the end. Or maybe he has moved on completely. Maybe he tells himself a story where he is the victim, where I am the one who ruined his life by getting sick. People can convince themselves of anything if they try hard enough, but his story is not mine to tell. Mine is about survival, about finding strength in the worst circumstances, about refusing to be erased, about building a new life from the rubble of the old one, and about accepting that life is messy and complicated and full of losses, but it is also full of moments of grace and connection and unexpected joy. I did not choose Alzheimer's. I did not choose betrayal, but I am choosing how I respond to both. I am choosing to keep going. I am choosing to share my story. I am choosing to believe that I still have value, that my life still has meaning, that there are still chapters left to write even if I might not remember writing them. If you have stayed with me through this entire story, through all 3 parts, through every painful detail and hard truth, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This is not an easy story to hear. It is not a fairy tale with a neat, happy ending. It is real life, with all its complications and pain and unresolved questions. But it is my life, and by listening, by bearing witness, you have given it meaning. You have told me that my story matters, that I matter, even with a diagnosis that the world often treats like a death sentence. You have reminded me that I am not invisible, not forgotten, not gone, and that means more to me than I can possibly express. Before I go, I want to leave you with one more thought. Whatever you are facing in your life right now, whatever challenge or loss or fear is sitting heavy on your heart, please know this. You are stronger than you think. You have survived every single hard day that has come before this one, which means you have a 100% success rate at getting through hard things. And you can survive this too. You can adapt. You can find strength you did not know you had. You can build a new normal. It will not look like what you planned. It will not be easy, but you can do it. We can all do it. Together, by sharing our stories, by supporting each other, by refusing to give up, we can face whatever comes. So do not give up. Keep fighting. Keep showing up. Keep being here, because you are still here, and that matters. That matters so much. Please subscribe to this channel if you have not already. Join this community of people who understand, who care, who see each other fully, and please leave a comment. Tell me you are here. Tell me what you are fighting for. Tell me you are not giving up, because I want to know you. I want to see you the way you have seen me. And together, we can keep reminding each other that our stories are not over, that we are all still writing them, one brave day at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. I will see you in the next video. Until then, remember who you are. Remember your strength. Remember that you are loved and valuable and worthy, always. Take care of yourselves. You matter. We all matter. And we are all in this together. There is something I have not told you yet. Something that happened just a few months ago that changed everything for me again. I was going through more of Richard's old things, boxes he had left behind in the attic that I had been avoiding for over a year. Rose was helping me because I cannot climb the attic stairs safely anymore, and we were sorting through papers and old clothes and things that should have been thrown away decades ago. And at the bottom of one box, underneath some old tax returns and insurance documents, I found a journal, Richard's journal. I did not even know he kept one. In all our years together, I never saw him write in a diary or a journal. But there it was, a leather-bound book filled with his handwriting, dated entries going back almost 10 years. I should not have read it. I know that. It was private, and we were divorced. And what did it matter anymore what he had written in his private thoughts? But I could not help myself. I opened it to a random page, and the date was 3 years before my diagnosis. And Richard had written about feeling trapped. He wrote about how our marriage had become routine, how he felt like he was just going through the motions, how he wondered what his life would have been like if he had made different choices. He wrote about a woman at his office who flirted with him, and how good it felt to be seen as attractive, as interesting, as someone other than just Margaret's husband. He did not act on it, at least not according to what he wrote, but the desire was there. The restlessness was there. The dissatisfaction was there, years before I got sick. I sat on the attic floor, Rose beside me asking if I was okay, and I read page after page. Some entries were mundane, just notes about his day, about golf games and business meetings and things he needed to remember. But scattered throughout were these confessions, these moments of honesty where he revealed that he had been unhappy for a long time. He wrote about feeling like he had given up his dreams for family life. He wrote about resenting the years he spent building a life with me, instead of pursuing the career opportunities that would have required us to move or would have taken him away from home more. He wrote about looking at other men his age who were single or divorced, who seemed to be having adventures, and feeling jealous. And then, about a year before my diagnosis, the entries changed. He started writing about my forgetfulness. He noticed before I did, or before I was willing to admit it. He wrote about how I repeated myself, how I seemed confused sometimes, how I had burned dinner twice in 1 week, which was not like me. And instead of worry or compassion, do you know what he wrote? He wrote, "If Margaret is developing dementia, that changes everything. I need to think about my options, not our options, not how we would face this together, my options for escaping." I felt sick reading it. I felt like the entire foundation of my marriage, of my life, had been built on sand, because this meant that Richard had been looking for a way out long before I got sick. The Alzheimer's was just the excuse he had been waiting for, the justification he could point to and say, "See, I cannot be expected to stay. This is too much." But the truth was, he was already gone. He had already checked out of our marriage emotionally. The diagnosis just gave him permission to make it official. All those years I thought we were happy, or at least content. He was counting down the days until he could leave. All those years I thought we were partners. He was feeling trapped. All those years I thought he loved me. He was tolerating me while fantasizing about a different life. I closed the journal and I cried harder than I had cried through the entire divorce. Because at least with the letter to his brother, I could tell myself that the betrayal was about the disease, about his inability to handle my diagnosis. I could tell myself that he had loved me before, that we had been happy before, that it was the Alzheimer's that destroyed us. But this journal proved that was a lie. We had been broken long before. I just had not known it. I had been living in a marriage by myself, loving someone who was already halfway out the door. And that hurt worse than anything else. It made me question every memory, every moment I had treasured. Were any of them real? Was he ever fully present? Or was I always alone, just too naive to see it? Rose helped me up off the floor and made me tea and sat with me while I tried to process it. She asked if I wanted to throw the journal away, and I thought about it. Part of me wanted to burn it, to destroy this evidence of Richard's inner life, to go back to not knowing. But I kept it. I kept it because it is the truth, as ugly and painful as that truth is. And I have learned that the truth, even when it hurts, is better than living in a comfortable lie. So now I know. I know that my marriage was not what I thought it was. I know that Richard's betrayal started long before the divorce papers. I know that I spent decades loving someone who was not capable of loving me back the way I deserved. And as much as that knowledge hurts, it also sets me free. Because I can stop wondering. I can stop asking myself what I did wrong, how I could have prevented this, whether things would have been different if I had not gotten sick. The answer is no. Things would not have been different. He would have found another excuse eventually. The Alzheimer's just sped up the timeline. My therapist, yes, I have a therapist now. I started seeing her after the divorce. She says this discovery is actually a gift. At first I thought she was crazy. How could this devastating revelation be a gift? But she explained that it released me from false guilt. I had been carrying this belief that I had somehow failed, that if I had been a better wife, a less burdensome patient, a more convenient partner, maybe Richard would have stayed. But the journal proved that my worth was never the issue. His capacity for commitment was the issue. His ability to love deeply was the issue. His character was the issue. And none of that had anything to do with me. I could have been perfect, could have never gotten sick, and he still would have been that man, the one who felt trapped and resentful and was always looking for the exit. So, in a strange way, it did free me. It let me stop blaming myself. It let me see clearly that I did not lose anything real. I lost an illusion, and illusions are not worth mourning. But I would be lying if I said it did not shake me. Because if I could be that wrong about my marriage, what else am I wrong about? What other parts of my life are built on false assumptions? And with Alzheimer's making me doubt my own mind already, this added layer of uncertainty is hard to carry. Some days I feel like I cannot trust anything. Not my memories, not my perceptions, not my judgments about people or situations. Everything feels unstable, like I am walking on ice that could crack at any moment. My therapist says this is normal, that betrayal trauma makes you question everything, and that combined with a cognitive disease, it is a particularly cruel combination. But she also says, I am doing the work. I am showing up. I am processing instead of avoiding, and eventually, I will find solid ground again. I have been thinking a lot about forgiveness lately, not for Richard's sake, but for mine, because carrying this anger, this hurt, this betrayal, it is exhausting. It takes energy I do not have to spare, and I wonder if I can find a way to let it go, not because he deserves forgiveness, but because I deserve peace. But I am not there yet. I am still too angry. I am still too hurt. And my therapist says that is okay too, that I do not have to rush forgiveness, that maybe I will never fully forgive him, and that is my right. The harm he did was real. The pain he caused was immense. And I am allowed to acknowledge that, to honor my own anger, to give myself permission to not be the bigger person for once in my life. So for now, I sit with it. I sit with the anger and the grief and the betrayal, and I let myself feel it all without trying to fix it or move past it or spiritually bypass it. This is where I am, and that is enough. My support group has been invaluable through all of this. There are 8 of us who meet every Tuesday evening in the basement of the community center. We are all at different stages of Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia. There is Bill, who is about my age and still drives and lives alone but forgets his grandchildren's names. There is Susan, who is younger than me, only 62, and her disease is progressing faster and she is terrified. There is George, who is in his 80s and surprisingly upbeat, despite barely remembering what day it is. And there are others, all of us just trying to hold on to ourselves for as long as we can. We talk about the practical stuff, the medications and the doctor's appointments and the tricks we use to remember things. But we also talk about the emotional stuff, the fear and the grief and the shame that nobody else seems to understand. And we do not judge each other. When Susan repeated the same story 3 times in one session, nobody pointed it out or got frustrated. We just listened each time like it was the first time, because we have all been there. We all know what it is like to lose the thread, to forget what you just said, to feel that wave of panic when your mind goes blank. I told them about the journal a few weeks ago, about discovering that Richard had been unhappy for years before my diagnosis. And do you know what they said? They said they were not surprised. They said that a lot of partners bail when the going gets tough, that this disease reveals who people really are, and that I was better off without him. Bill told me his wife divorced him 6 months after his diagnosis. Susan's husband had an affair and blamed it on the stress of her illness. George's children barely visit anymore because it is too hard to see him like this. We all have these stories of abandonment, of people who could not or would not stay, and in some terrible way, it was comforting. It meant I was not alone. It meant I had not done anything wrong. It meant this was about them, not about us. And together, we are learning how to build lives that are meaningful and full even without the people who left. One of the things we talk about a lot in group is legacy. What do we want to leave behind? What do we want people to remember about us when we are gone, or when we are too far into the disease to speak for ourselves? For some people, it is about their children or their grandchildren, about making sure those relationships are strong and filled with love. For others, it is about creative projects, books they want to write or art they want to make while they still can. For me, I think it is this. It is telling my story. It is being honest about what this journey looks like, the good and the bad, the moments of grace and the moments of despair. Because if even one person hears my story and feels less alone, if even one person facing betrayal finds the courage to fight back, if even one person with Alzheimer's realizes they are still valuable and worthy, and here, then it will have mattered. My life will have mattered. My pain will have had purpose. And that is all any of us can really hope for, is that our suffering is not meaningless, that it connects us to each other, that it creates something lasting. I have started recording myself, just little videos on my phone, messages to my future self for when I cannot remember anymore. I talk about who I am, what I love, what matters to me. I tell stories about my children when they were young, about my parents, about the life I lived before all of this. I want there to be a record, something that exists outside of my failing brain. Emily is compiling them into a kind of video journal that she says she will show me when the time comes, when I do not know who I am anymore. I do not know if I will understand them then. I do not know if seeing a video of myself from years earlier will mean anything to me, or just confuse me more. But it gives me comfort now, knowing that I am doing what I can to hold on to myself, to leave breadcrumbs for the person I will become. There are moments now that feel almost sacred, moments when I am fully present, when my mind is clear, and I can see and feel and understand everything with a sharp crystalline clarity. And in those moments, I am overwhelmed with gratitude. Gratitude for the sun coming through my kitchen window. Gratitude for the taste of coffee and the softness of my cat curling up in my lap. Gratitude for my children's voices on the phone. Gratitude for Rose's laugh. Gratitude for the flowers in my garden that I planted and that come back year after year. Gratitude for this breath, this heartbeat, this moment of being alive and aware. I never felt this way before the diagnosis. I took everything for granted. I assumed I would always have tomorrow, always have my memory, always have time. But now I know better. Now I know that every clear moment is a gift, and I do not waste them anymore. I soak them in. I memorize them. I live them fully, knowing they are finite and precious. I want to speak directly to the caregivers again, because I know many of you are watching, trying to understand what your loved one is going through, trying to find the strength to keep going. Please hear me when I say this. Your loved one knows, even if they cannot express it. They know you are there. They know you are trying. They know you are sacrificing, and they are grateful, even if the disease makes it impossible for them to show it. I know because I am on the other side. I see what Rose does for me. I see what my children do. And even on my worst days, even when I am confused or frightened or lost, some part of me knows they are there, and that presence is everything. It is the difference between drowning and staying afloat. So please do not give up. Please do not see your loved one as a burden. Please remember that they are still in there, still feeling, still human. And please take care of yourself too. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Ask for help. Take breaks. Go to therapy. Join a support group. Do whatever you need to do to sustain yourself, because this is a marathon, not a sprint, and you matter just as much as the person you are caring for. And to those of you who are newly diagnosed, who are sitting with that fresh terror of knowing what is coming, I want to tell you that it is okay to grieve. It is okay to be angry. It is okay to feel like this is unfair, because it is unfair. You did not do anything to deserve this. This is not punishment or karma or anything except bad luck and biology. So let yourself feel all of it. Cry, scream, break things if you need to. But then, when you are ready, start fighting. Fight for every good day. Fight for your dignity. Fight for your right to still have a voice, to still make choices, to still matter. Do not let anyone, not family, not doctors, not society, write you off. You are not your diagnosis. You are a whole complex person who happens to have a disease, and you deserve to live whatever time you have left on your terms, surrounded by people who see you and love you and honor you. The other day, my granddaughter Sophie asked me if I was scared. We were baking cookies together, just the two of us, and she asked it so casually, like she was asking if I liked chocolate chips or raisins. And I thought about lying, about saying no, about protecting her from the weight of the truth. But then I remembered how much I hate being lied to, how much I hate being treated like I am fragile or incapable of handling reality. So I told her the truth. I said, yes, I am scared sometimes. I am scared of forgetting the people I love. I am scared of losing myself. I am scared of becoming someone I do not recognize. But I am also brave. I am also strong. I am also still here, still fighting, still finding joy even in the scary parts. And she thought about that, her little forehead wrinkled in concentration, and then she said, I think you are the bravest person I know, Grandma. And I started crying right there in the kitchen, and she hugged me, and we just stood there surrounded by cookie dough and flour and love. That moment reminded me why I keep going, not for some distant abstract future, but for these small perfect moments that happen in the middle of ordinary days. for cookie dough and little girl hugs, for morning coffee and bird songs, for phone calls with my children and ridiculous conversations with Rose about reality television shows I will not remember tomorrow, for the feeling of accomplishment when I finish a crossword puzzle, for the comfort of my own bed and my own home, for the satisfaction of telling my story and knowing someone is listening. These are the things worth living for, these small, beautiful, unremarkable moments that add up to a life. And as long as I can still experience them, as long as I can still feel and connect and be present, I will keep showing up. I do not know how much time I have before the disease progresses to the point where I cannot do this anymore, cannot record videos or write stories or have clear conversations. It could be years. It could be months. The progression is unpredictable, my doctor says, different for everyone. But I am not waiting around for the bad stuff to happen. I am living now. I am making every single day count. I am squeezing every drop of life out of the time I have left where I am still fully me. And when the harder stages come, when I need more care, when I start to fade, I trust that my children will remember who I was at my best and will treat me with the dignity I deserve. That is all any of us can ask for in the end. To be remembered, to be honored, to be loved even when we are no longer the person we used to be. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. Thank you for listening to my story, all of it, the painful parts and the hopeful parts and everything in between. Thank you for not looking away, for not dismissing me as just another sad story about an old woman with Alzheimer's. You have given me something precious by being here. You have given me witness. You have given me community. You have given me proof that I still matter, that my voice still carries weight, that I am not invisible. And I hope I have given you something too. I hope I have given you courage or comfort or company. I hope I have shown you that it is possible to face terrible things and survive. I hope I have reminded you that you are not alone, whatever battle you are fighting. We are all in this together, all of us stumbling through this messy, complicated, beautiful, heartbreaking life, trying to hold on to ourselves and each other. If you are still here, if you have read every single word of this journey, please do one more thing for me. Subscribe to this channel. Click that button and join this community of survivors and fighters and people who refuse to be erased, because every subscriber tells me that my story matters. Every notification tells me that there are people out there who care, who understand, who see me, and that sustains me in ways I cannot fully express. This channel is my legacy. It is my way of holding on to myself. It is my contribution to a world that often treats people like me as disposable. So please, be part of it. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and come back for the next video and the one after that, because I have more to say. I have more stories to tell. I have more life to live, and I want you with me for all of it. Leave me a comment right now. Tell me your name. Tell me where you are watching from. Tell me one thing you are grateful for today, no matter how small, because I want to know you. I want this to be a conversation, not a monologue. I want us to build something together, a space where people like us can be real and raw and honest, where we can admit we are struggling without shame, where we can celebrate the small victories, where we can hold each other up when everything feels impossible. So please, take 30 seconds and write something in the comments. Anything. Just let me know you are there. Let me know I am not shouting into the void. Let me know that this matters, that we matter, that our stories deserve to be told. And if this video helped you, if it moved you, if it gave you something you needed, please share it. Send it to someone who needs to hear it. Post it on your social media. Help me reach more people who are feeling alone, who are facing their own battles, who need to know that they are not the only ones. Together, we can create ripples. We can change the narrative around Alzheimer's, around aging, around what it means to have value as a human being. We can prove that we are still here, still fighting, still worthy of love and respect and dignity. And that is revolutionary. That matters. You matter. I am going to keep making these videos as long as I can. As long as my mind is clear enough to form sentences and tell stories, I will be here, and I hope you will be here too. I hope we can walk this path together wherever it leads, because none of us know how our stories end, but we can choose how we live them. We can choose courage over fear. We can choose connection over isolation. We can choose to keep showing up, keep speaking our truth, keep fighting for joy and meaning and purpose. And that is what I choose. Every single day, that is what I choose. I hope you will choose it too. Thank you for everything. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for being part of my story. You have made this journey less lonely, less frightening, less overwhelming. You have given me strength I did not know I needed. You have reminded me that I am still Margaret, still here, still worthy, still capable of making a difference. And for that, I will be forever grateful. Take care of yourselves. Be gentle with yourselves. Remember that you are enough, exactly as you are, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, hold on to hope, hold on to each other, hold on to yourselves. We are all still here, and our stories are still being written.